Swansboro. We have culverts in front of the street. That still could be perhaps an option to consider without impacting the wetlands in the back. But I just thought it'd be a good idea for you to consider that. That's really about it for me. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, so no one else has signed up for public comment in the first section. So we'll move along to the adoption of agenda and consent items as one if we want. Do I get a motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it was unanimous, so it's adopted. Now we'll go to the point of appointments, recognitions, and presentations. And so we're going to recognize Logan Walters first, and then the Parks and Recreation Month. So we'll come right up. Hey, Logan. How you doing? Nice to meet you. Where you going? Okay, so I just want to introduce Logan, and of course he got the Moorhead Kane Scholarship Award. And that's a very prestigious award. It's one of the oldest scholarships in the United States pertaining to academics, and it's got like 4 pillars. I don't know exactly what the 4 pillars are. I know it's integrity, education, and things of that nature. Do you know the 4 pillars?
I think athletics and leadership.
Okay. So it's very prestigious, and congratulations on that. So I'd like to read this proclamation to you. And whereas Logan Walters, a distinguished member of the Swansboro community, has achieved the prestigious honor of being selected as a recipient of the highly competitive Moorhead Kane Scholarship awarded to only a select group of exceptional students each year. And whereas Logan graduated as valedictorian of Swansboro High School class of 2025, earning the highest academic distinction among his peers through his dedication, work ethic, and leadership. And whereas, in addition to his high school accomplishments, Logan also graduated with an associate's degree from Coastal Carolina Community College, demonstrating an extraordinary level of commitment to his education and academic excellence. Whereas Logan's selection for the Moorhead Kane Scholarship reflects not only his individual achievements, but also the encouragement and support of his family, educators, and mentors. Whereas Logan's success brings pride to the town of Swansboro and serves as an inspiring example for his peers and future generations of students. Whereas the Swansboro Board of Commissioners desires to recognize and commend Logan Walters for his outstanding accomplishment and to celebrate the honor he brings to our town. Now, therefore, I, William Justice, Mayor of Swansboro, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim our congratulations and admiration to Logan Walters for being awarded the Moorhead Kane Scholarship, and urge all citizens to join in recognizing the young leader's achievement and his bright future that lies ahead. Proclaim this 24th day of June 2025 in the town of Swansboro, North Carolina. Congratulations. All right, thank you. I always forget that, so if you'll just let them congratulate you. Oh, it's a long one. Okay. All right, so now we're going to do July. We're going to designate as July as the Parks and Recreation Month, and we have several members of the Parks and Recs department here. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the town of Swansboro, and whereas I should have some people up here with me. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, so you got sponsors that you want to bring up?
But you got to
Yeah,
ring the
come
bell.
on up. Everybody come up. I looked around and I said, well, I'm up here by myself.
Jumping the gun.
Really?
All right, me and go.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. All right, we're going to start over now. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, sorry, Paul. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of the communities throughout the country, including the town of Swansboro. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of the people who live near parks, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designated to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation is a leading provider of healthy meals, nutritional services, and education, and whereas Parks and Recreation programming and educational activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development, and whereas Parks and Recreation increases the community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptive infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change, and whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. Whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the town of Swansboro recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now, therefore, be it resolved by Mayor William Justice, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners of the town of Swansboro, do hereby proclaim that July is recognized as Park and Recreation Month in the town of Swansboro, witnessed by my hand and seal on the 24th day of June, 2025. Whew, that's a long one. You got to cut these things down. I'm about to have a stroke. Would y'all like to say anything?
Yeah, thank you.
One quick thing, because like I was accused of in the past, I like to talk, but I can attest to the Parks and Rec Department. Our granddaughter has attended several functions that you all have done, and you guys, she just gets the most out of it. And so thank you so much from my heart to y'all.
Okay, thank you, and thank you all for being here. I just wanted to say on behalf of Director Anna Stanley, she was extremely disappointed she couldn't be here tonight, so she had me fill in, yay me. But she helped put this all together in our month activities, so we really appreciate everyone's support. Parks and Recreation is more than just green spaces and playgrounds. They are places where friendships are formed, memories are made, and community spirit thrives. From camps to festivals, from fitness classes to our family nights, our programs bring people together and enrich lives in countless ways. Today, we honor partnerships, passion, and the people who will make it all possible. I want to apologize in advance if we miss mentioning any of our incredible sponsors or partners. We're so fortunate to have such a strong community here, and just know if I were to list every single one of them, we would be here till 10 o'clock tonight. So first, I want to extend a welcome to and heartfelt thanks to all of our sponsors. Our sponsors play a vital role in making our vision a reality. Your contributions help us expand access, enhance experiences, and bring joy to thousands of residents and visitors throughout the year. Our new sponsors for this year for our Parks and Recreation family include Manus Motors, State Farm Jennifer Dufour, Swansboro Family Dentistry, Main Street Family Care, Driver Heating and Cooling, Molly Maid, Walmart, Remax Homestead of Swansboro, and Alpha Mortgage. And our longtime sponsors, again, this is just some of them, they have supported us over the years on the backbone of our programs and events. This includes Sanders Ford's, Michelangelo's, Darden Insurance, What the Fin, First Citizens Bank, Island Automation, Toy, Battlefield Tire Pros, Southern Coast Realty Group, Farm Bureau, Burrow, El Chino, By the Bridge, Emerald Wine Market, Diamond West, John's Golf Carts, Bogue RV, Colligan Water, Lighthouse Realty, Hampton Inn, Tideland News, Saltwater Grill, Curtis Media, and many more. I also want to thank Onslow County Tourism and Swansboro Tourism Development Authority for our grants that we received from them. And a special thanks to our new title sponsor this year, Team Chevrolet of Swansboro. Your leadership and generosity are helping us reach new heights. We also want to recognize all of our community partners. This includes Tunnels to Towers, Onslow County Senior Services, Down Syndrome Network of Onslow and Carteret Counties, tennis blocks, our contract instructors like Be Inspired, Harold McMillan, Karen Daly, and Our Lady Swan. To our Parks and Recreation staff and town staff, thank you all for your tireless dedication. And to Public Works, your behind-the-scene efforts ensure our festivals and events run smoothly and look beautiful. A huge thank you to our fire and our police departments for keeping our staff, volunteers, and patrons safe at our events. And finally, to the hundreds of volunteers that we have who give their time, energy, and heart to our programs and events and festivals, thank you. We couldn't do it without you. Next month, I guess, July, we have a ton of events going on. I did print out some calendars for everyone. We have popsicles in the park, Chalk the Park. Christian here, our staff member, he actually made up a Doggy and Me event that we're gonna do, and some tie-dye events and stuff like that. So please come on out, and thank you guys all so much for being here.
Thank you, and if you'll come this way now, and let the Board of Commissioners all remember this time. Go ahead, thanks. How you doing?
Oh,
Okay, after that, I need to take a break. Those are some long proclamations. But congratulations to y'all. We really appreciate the contribution y'all do to our town. It makes the town what it is, as well as Logan and his contribution as well. So now we'll move to the next thing, which will be a public hearing on our North Carolina Public Beach and Coastal Waterfront Access Grant, and that would be John Barlow.
Mayor, Board, good evening. The purpose of our public hearing tonight is to hear comments regarding the town's intention to submit a grant application to the North Carolina Division of Coastal Management for the replacement of the Main Street dock. We were recently invited by Coastal Management to submit a full application, and this is part of our application process, is to conduct a public hearing prior to submitting the final application. If after the public hearing, the board still desires to submit the application, there's a resolution in your packet, 25R6, that the board would need to adopt to go with our application packet. This dock is the oldest dock in town. It was originally built in 1988 with an addition built in 1992, and it was built originally with these funds from North Carolina Division of Coastal Management. That's what made it eligible for repair or replacement. We had an inspection done back in February, March by Carteret Marine, put a diver in the water, and they came back and said it was so far gone that it would be more cost effective to replace it. Coastal Management agreed with us and told us to go ahead and submit the application based on a full replacement. The estimated cost of replacing the dock with engineering, permitting, and surveying, construction administration cost $164. The grant match is 25% of that cost, so about $42,541 would be the town's match. It would be certainly my recommendation that if we are awarded, we do accept that grant. There's no way we could replace that dock for that price of $42,000 as our match. Do you have any questions, Mayor, before we start the public hearing?
No, I don't. Does anybody else have any questions for John? Okay, so have the public hearing. No one signed up, so I'd like to open the public hearing, but if anybody would like to say anything in regards to the dock grant. Okay, so now I would like to get a motion to approve resolution 2025R6, stating that support to submit a North Carolina Public Beach and Coastal Waterfront Access Grant application. Do I have a motion?
so move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So we'll proceed with that. So we'll close the public hearing. On business non-consent, we've got the Swan Gate stormwater easement consideration, that Laurent had referenced earlier. So Rebecca will come up and give us a presentation on that.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight I have a stormwater easement consideration for Swansgate. Just to give some back history, we've been working on this for a couple months now. Tidewater Engineering, on behalf of A-Sides Construction, is requesting a stormwater easement be granted to the HOA of Swansgate subdivision for the town-owned public open space that was dedicated during the creation of Swansgate subdivision. So Swansgate subdivision is located near the intersection of Main Street Extension and Swansboro Loop Road, and it was platted in 2019 as an R20 single-family cluster development. As required by our ordinance, during the creation of a cluster subdivision, open space is required to be dedicated to either be owned and maintained by an HOA or dedicated as public space to be owned and maintained by the town. And in this scenario, the open space was dedicated and deeded to the public, therefore owned by the town. A-Sides has hired Tidewater Engineering to help with the street and sidewalk dedication to the town for Swansgate. Part of that application process is showing record of a compliant stormwater permit from DEQ and a plan for it to continue to be properly maintained. During the transfer of the stormwater permit from the developer to the HOA of Swansgate, DEQ raised the flag because the stormwater system for this subdivision includes the open space dedicated to the town, so it's owned by separate entities. In order for the successful transfer of the stormwater permit and ultimately the request to the town to take on streets and sidewalks, DEQ is requesting a stormwater easement be granted from the town to the HOA. This easement will give the HOA responsibility to operate and maintain the stormwater system for the entire subdivision, including the dedicated open space. So just to be clear, they're not proposing as of right now to change anything about the stormwater system. It's more so just on paper so that it's a complete system, so DEQ will let the permit be transferred. We do have Josh from Tidewater here if you guys have any questions for him that I'm not able to answer. And Raz did work with all of us closely on creating the easement, so he feels comfortable with everything in that as well. In your agenda, we have the draft easement and we have the subdivision plat, just so you can get a visual. The open space as of right now is all wooded wetland type land, so it really doesn't serve as open space as of right now. To my knowledge, I don't think the town has plans to change how it functions. And there really wouldn't be much stormwater maintenance that needs to take place on it because it naturally is a wetland right now. So it's more just on paper that the HOA has control of that as well. I also included kind of the overhead visual of what that land looks like so you guys can see it too in relation to where the subdivision is. Is there any questions on this?
Yeah, I guess my biggest question is, will we still have access to that easement?
So my understanding is they will completely have control of the stormwater system, but Raz could probably answer that a little bit better.
The town owns the 4.5 acres roughly in fee simple. That is, the town owns title to the land itself. However, devoting that land to stormwater acceptance, containment, as a natural absorption area, that was part of the DEQ permit for the subdivision. So the easement that the town, as the owner of the land outright, is dedicating to the Swansgate HOA does two things. One, it has negative covenants. That is, it's a no-bill, non-disturbance easement. Swansgate HOA may not build buildings on that property, but it also imposed on the HOA all of the responsibilities for operating, maintaining, repairing, upgrading, and maintaining compliance with the DEQ permit, as well as state and federal regulations. So it's a little bit you know, it's an interesting, you know, real property scenario, but the town owns the title, subject to the HOAs having limitations on what it can do, as well as responsibility and obligations to do what's required to manage the stormwater.
So can they build a structure on it?
No.
No. So,
Well, I say that, I don't know exactly what stormwater features are on this property. My understanding is generally it just simply receives the water and causes it it detains the water and then passes it downstream. But if there's any improvement that they have to build in connection with the stormwater permit, that is the only type of development or construction that is part of the easement that the town is granting to the HOA. But no, it generally has, the easement says they may not build structures or developments on that property. It has conservation-type covenants as well as affirmative obligations to maintain that area consistent with the stormwater permit. It's a little unusual because the town owns the underlying fee, but the property serves a stormwater function. So as a condition for the DEQ permit, it had to be heavily easemented so that the HOA has full responsibility for that area to continue to serve as a drainage facility, as a drainage resource to the subdivision. So what can the town do, you know, as the owner of the property? Not very much, honestly. I don't think the town would have the authority to build a road without getting DEQ approval, because again, that would be an impervious surface, and this 4 acres serves as a natural stormwater detention and
it's
receiving area.
wetlands have
And
restrictions
it
as well.
It has natural topographical, you know, environmental limitations as well. So it's mostly academic that you own title to the dirt, if you will, with all of these easement rights being imposed on the HOA. This could have very well have been dedicated as private open space. It's just when the development was approved, the approval process called for the area to be dedicated as in fee simple title to the town as open space. But in terms of what function this property serves, it's stormwater management by the HOA in order to minimize flooding potential in the Swansgate development. I know that's probably more than you needed, but it's a little bit of a curious situation where the town owns the title, but you're really burdening the HOA with most of the responsibility to comply with the stormwater, with the DEQ permit.
Thank you. Pat?
I have a question. So I've not ever noticed that the open space is wetland. So normally it's open spaces like for a playground or for kids to play in, but this one is mostly wetland. So is that normal? Because I've not noticed that before.
It's a little bit of an unusual situation, I think, on all aspects of it, but technically speaking, it was dedicated during the creation of the cluster subdivision as its open space technically, but as it serves right now, you can't really do much with it. It is unusual, though. We did discover that it's not typically done that way.
And I think all but just a small portion of the area actually is jurisdictional wetlands. It has been delineated as wetlands, so it's environmentally, classified that way as well.
It's just unusual to see it this way, that it's mostly wetland.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. I would agree.
Anything else, Pat? Joe's chomping at the bit, so.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions here. I'm going to speak into the microphone here. Why is the easement tied to why is the stormwater easement tied to the maintenance of the sidewalks and streets?
You can answer, Josh, if you'd like to.
Just state who you are and if you would please.
Josh Edmondson, Tidewater Associates. So basically, if I remember correctly, using Shadow Creek as an example, I believe council wanted us to provide proof of positive stormwater inspections when we were trying to dedicate streets and sidewalks. Just to follow up on what Raz and Rebecca are saying, basically, me and Rebecca, and I think Raz, we're not exactly sure because we weren't here why this was dedicated to the town and not just dedicated typically as common open space for the subdivision. When that was done, that 4.4 acres by NCDEQ rule was deducted from the acreage that was on our approved stormwater permit. So because of that, we have to find a way to be able to include that acreage as part of our approved stormwater permit. This easement is the way for us to do that. It's not changing any drainage facilities out there. As a matter of fact, those wetlands now only, if I believe, the lots adjacent to that, the rear of those lots, only drain to that, sheet flow to that. So we're not using this because we need additional drainage or to change the existing drainage system. It's really just administratively, we have to somehow show Swansgate HOA has some type of property rights to that 4.49 acres.
Well, that's the kind of briefs well, but I don't think it's very good in application. The city took that because they thought it would be good for the greenway. Could we have a commitment in the land use plan to provide X amount of greenway, right? So that now apparently it's not good greenway.
That property is 404, so it can be used in its natural state. And depending on how you guys view open space can be a wetland. It's just depending on how you guys, it was previously or is currently outlined in your ordinance.
But you can't do anything with that land. It's wetland. It's designated wetland.
It's designated wetland, that's correct.
Okay, you mentioned earlier, do you have the information from DEQ that said, because I know we had some problems with that drainage in the past. Drainage, flooding roads, massive runoff. Do we have something from DEQ that says that drain plan is all in compliance?
When we had DEQ do our inspection.
That was kind of a yes or no.
Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of history on it because it's been about an 8-month process. When DEQ did our inspection in our original submittal for transfer, all the issues they found were admin issues like we're discussing now. They did not note any functionality problems with the existing system.
So there's physically nothing wrong with the drainage and the flow of the water, and so the culverts overflowing, that has nothing to do. That's all admin.
Per NCDEQ, the system is functioning as it should, based on the time of their inspection.
Okay, well, I'll tell you, I have experience with this contractor, and over in my development, and our area is not good. It has improper sediment ponds, the drainage in the sediment ponds, a lot of ugly things going on there. So I'm always skeptical when I hear this contractor's name. I'm not going to say it out loud here, but yeah, I'm concerned because I also hear that the residents now are going to assume all the responsibility.
But that's incorrect. They can't assume any responsibility until the permit's transferred. We can't even get to that process until we get this stormwater easement in place.
Well, that's not what, my computer died on me, the internet closed down.
The developer can't transfer the permit to the HOA with any deficiencies or with any issues they find with the permit. Because obviously Swansgate's not going to take responsibility of any issues that are found before taking control. So any issues that DEQ finds when they come out for reinspection will have to be addressed by the current developer before that can be relayed to the HOA.
But still, in this write-up, it says that they assume the responsibility for this wetland.
That's That's correct. That's what this easement allows. However, that can't take place until every box is checked and gets approval from DEQ. That's inspections of the system again. That's all the administrative items that we have to address, this being one. So we can't even get to that point until this is done. If we can't get this passed, we can't even get to the next step of having DEQ come out and look at the system again and letting us know if there's any functionality, anything wrong with it. At that time, they'll give us a report, and if it is, we'll have to address all items that are found.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm still thinking, go ahead. I got to read.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'll give you the floor back in a second. Is this the same kind of process we followed with Shadow Ridge? Or, yeah.
Shadow
okay.
Creek.
Yeah, Shadow Creek, yeah.
It
So
is, it is similar. There just wasn't the scenario of where we needed a
Just-
stormwater easement.
And again, oh, I'm sorry.
It's
Shadow-
the same process, is
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Shadow Creek, I will say, if you remember, we came back to you and for a separate issue for roads and sidewalks separately, and you guys had concerns about stormwater. We went out and had those addressed. Me and Tank went and inspected, and he was satisfied, and then we came back to you guys. So I think there's checks and balances in place to alleviate concerns about the drainage infrastructure itself before it gets to Swansgate being in control of the system.
Another thing, if I can add, and it may not have completely fixed issue, when the pipe at Main Street Extension and Swansboro Loop Road was replaced in larger size, from what Tank has expressed, that has helped a lot of the backup issue and the flooding that happened at Swansgate. And I think Josh has attested to that as well.
Yeah, I think, so obviously our system was a low-density system designed to flow that way. And I think with some deficiencies that were in the right-of-way that Tank has addressed, and NCDOT, I think we are having more success in Swansgate. Keep in mind, I think we're probably facing abnormal rain events more frequently, which is one of the issues we're having. We may get several days of events that are abnormal. So these systems are only designed for those 2-inch rainfall events. And unfortunately, it does seem like at times we're getting more of those more frequently. But I do think, and I can't speak for Tank, but I do think the system is functioning better since some of those improvements have been made.
Yep. Hammer?
Hank, do you have any input?
That was-
Stormwater is Tank's favorite topic.
You can have a seat if you'd
All
like.
right, thank you.
Yeah.
So like has been stated already, when NCDOT came out and redirected the pipes under Main Street Extension from where they were, that helped out a lot. And the work that we did over at 605 Main Street Extension, putting a new stormwater ditch on that property, going out to the creek, has helped a lot. And I don't believe that I've seen the intersection of Main Street Extension and Swansboro Loop Road flooding anymore like it used to. That's on that side of the development. On the back side, which Mr. Mueller's talking about, the houses, the road that goes, I don't remember the name of the street that goes in off of Main Street Extension, but the houses that are on this side of it that back up to that 4.4 acre wetlands, when he's talking about his land, his backyard is mushy, that's because there is no proper drainage back there, as far as I have seen. So there's a lot, in my mind, there's a lot of issues that need to be taken care of on the backside. What's going on in the front is fine. In my opinion, the easements that, or the ditches that are within the subdivision in between the houses are still not graded properly, but they're working so that it's not flooding out on the road anymore. But there will be standing water in some of them because there's low and high spots, and it'll just sit there until, evaporates. We are not taking over stormwater. That's going to be the HOA, so they have to address these things or the developer has to address them before they can transfer it over. And whatever they do is fine. I mean, there's a lot of ideas I have, but it's not ours to address. But in my opinion, there are issues for those homes on the backside of that road because they back up to the wetlands and their yard, I've walked in 3 or 4 of them, and it is very mushy, as Mr. Mueller said. So that would be my concern, but we don't have a play in the stormwater issue. It's the developer and the HOA.
Do you see that unless we have some major work done there, is that ever going to improve? Or it's just as sediment builds up there between the houses and the easement?
So they, the first time I went over to inspect or to look at the street sidewalks, curbs and gutters, you could see where during a big rain event that the water would pool up on the streets and not move through the ditches. A couple reasons: the grass had grown up higher than the little drain was allowing the water to go in, so it would just sit there. Some of it would get through. I believe that the developer came out and had somebody do some grading of the ditches. I just don't think that they were done the way that I would. I mean, they need to flow out towards Swansboro Loop Road, and for the most part they do. But there's still some issues with that. I wouldn't be worried about that because that will take care of itself. And the HOA, once they receive ownership of it, they can hire a stormwater company or somebody, landscaping company, to come in and do whatever they need to do to fix it. But the backside is the bigger issue. I don't know how they're going to alleviate their backyards being mushy and full of water sometimes.
So is that in compliance with the stormwater drain plan or permit to have a mushy backyard?
I wouldn't think so. Yeah, I wouldn't think so, but you know, there's fixes. There can be a pipe put in at some point to run that water to the ditch on Main Street Extension. That would be one solution. But I don't know what they're going to do. So that's about all the input I have on that.
I'm afraid they're going to hang it on the residents to do that, but that seems to be the answer.
I think what Mr. Edmondson was trying to express is that in order to updates and improvements made, we need to grant them this easement so we can move forward in the process. Is that correct, Josh? Yeah, their hands are tied right now because of this administrative issue, and in order to proceed with the stormwater permit at all, this easement needs to be granted.
So I got a couple of questions too. A lot simpler, and Cameron already addressed it with Tank. How's this going to affect our Public Works Department? Is it going to make the job harder, easier, about the same, or?
I don't think it's going to affect their day-to-day function at all. As of right now, it's a wetland, so our Public Works doesn't have any actual maintenance that they're doing on the open space.
So once we turn it, if we were to turn it over to the HOA, it's designated, if I understand correctly, as a wetlands?
It'll stay that way,
It
yes.
has to stay that way?
Yep.
So they can't come, because you're talking about them coming in and making improvements and what to the land,
That would be on the subdivision side, not
Okay.
on the wetland
All right,
side.
I just misunderstood.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. So it's draining properly now?
I think
far
there's
as
some
we know-
discrepancy on that. I think Tank has opinions on it, but as of right now, DEQ is saying it's compliant. But in order for these small updates to be made, the HOA needs to take ownership of the stormwater.
Okay. All right.
I think Josh had one more thing to add, if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
The squishiness in the backyard, if I'm understanding, those lots do fall from the house back. And that was intentional, so water drains to that wetland. Now, if it's really wet, it's probably really wet back there. I would have guessed the water table probably gets pretty high. So those yards just, because that development, natural things that happen, probably not much that can be done unless those elevations are raised to those backyards. But that's not part of the DEQ stormwater permit. DEQ stormwater permit covers that storm drainage from road forward. Everything else is sheet flowing to the back.
So I've got one last question. Do we know where that road, that water flows once it gets into that drainage ditch? Where does
Flows
that
out
water?
towards,
Swansboro Loop.
yeah, Swansboro.
So it's not going to go directly into waterway or anything?
Some of it penetrates and infiltrates in those ditches, and then the bulk of it runs off into
But that's,
towards Swansboro Loop.
that's according to,
And that's what it's designed to do.
okay, that's fine. Anybody else have a question?
Kind of feels like we got to pass the bill before we can read it. Kind of. But
So what we need to do now is I need to get a motion to approve or deny the easement. So do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so that passed unanimously with the board, and thank you, Josh, for coming out and adding to it. And
Thank you,
public.
everyone.
okay, now it's Sonia's turn with the monthly financial report.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I will be presenting the May 31st, 2025 financial report. And here is our general fund with encumbrances, and the total excess of revenues over expenditures were $280,269. And this is our actual for our general fund, and that is total excess of revenues over expenditures were $491,497. Here's our summary of expenditures by department, and overall, the total expenditures are at 73.11% of budget, which is 18.56% less than 67. Here's our stormwater enterprise fund as of May 31st, and our total excess of revenues over expenditures were $29,079. And here's our solid waste enterprise fund with encumbrances, and our total excess of revenues over expenditures were $74,339, but there is some invoice lagging, and we do have a debt service payment that's due in June, so you'll see that next month. And here's our summary of town debt and current loan balances. And our summary of town current cash and investment accounts with their current balances. And our grant update, outstanding balances. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Sonia? All right, thank you, Sonia. I guess not. Okay, future agenda topics.
Good evening. As a reminder, you'll only be having one meeting in July, and that'll be on the 22nd. Right now, we will have board appointments in our July meeting, our fire department quarterly presentation, or biannual presentation, as well as the financial report will come back again for that meeting. Did the board have any other items they wish to see brought forward in July or August?
The visitor center?
Yeah.
We'll have that.
What was it, the visitor center? Yeah, yeah, that's one thing I want. Anybody have anything else they want to put on?
yeah,
Okay, microphone.
I'd like to hear about the plan to clean up the ABC store and the that house out on the highway.
Out by Team Chevrolet?
Right, the one that the fire department burned down. You know, that's two pretty nasty eyesores we got going on right now. Need to hear what we're going to do about that.
Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
Do we, not for a future agenda item, but do we need to talk about the porta potties when the visitor center is not open?
Yeah. Yeah,
Is that
that's-
something we
that's-
can talk about now?
That could be a future agenda item if, you know,
The next meeting is till
Until-
July
yeah.
22nd.
yeah, maybe we should,
Half the
should we do
summer's
that in the
over.
comment section, or can we just talk about it now? She had a question about, since the visitor center is not operational right now, if we could, and it just came, you know, to fruition today, really, if we could put some type of portable facilities there for people to use when they're in the downtown area. Somebody reached out to me about it, that owns a business downtown, and so that's kind of where this is kind of coming from, but it's a good point. Should we put that as a future agenda or discuss it now?
It'll be over with by the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that's
I think we
something
need
that
to do
staff
that
could
now.
handle without it being at a board meeting.
Would this be an appropriate time to talk about it, though? Should we move it to a different part of the meeting?
Anna's not here either. We can put, you know, we use porta johns on trailers, hand washing stations during festivals and events at the visitor center. Those are just temporary. We can put them there semi-permanently until we resolve what we're going to do with the visitor center long-term. I don't have a cost for you.
Yeah.
I wish Anna was here or Sarah. They could tell us off the top of the head what it would cost weekly, because they're going to have to come pump it out every week. So there's going to be a charge for the rental of the facility plus the cleanup fees. I don't know what that's going to run. I don't even want to guess what a monthly charge that's going to be, but that would be an expense we don't, you know, we have.
Our ETJ responsibilities. Anybody else have anything else? Okay. Thank you very much. Now we've got manager comments, so John will come back up and give us
A
comments.
couple of comments to make you aware of. Water Street resurfacing project will start this Thursday and Friday. I know Tank and the staff got the notices out to the affected residents downtown, but they are paving from Water Street and 24, basically through Ward Park up to Elm Street, except for the piece about 300 or 400 feet in front of Casper's, was that Broad Street? And we did that last year. Yeah, but pretty much all of Water Street will be done next Thursday and Friday. We will be closed July 4th for the holiday. The fireworks will be July 3rd, Thursday night, so we expect the weather's nice. It'll be hot, but it should have a good crowd downtown. A couple of grant opportunities I want to make you aware of that we've kind of been have had some successes at just recently. The League of Municipalities has a program assess where we are with firewalls and that kind of thing. So the timing is really good because we knew we had a lot of technology updates that we needed to make. Typically, Anna and Parks and Rec request from Onslow County TDA about $10,000 a year to help with events and festivals. She asked for $20,000 this year, and Onslow County TDA awarded that to her. So we weren't expecting that additional $10,000 to help with events and festivals. Is really good opportunity for her. And last, Sarah was successful just this today. We found out she got a grant for Tiny Trekkers and Scout Youth, $4,800 for rec equipment for youth recreation. Yeah, good for her. Yeah, a small grant, but she can buy youth sporting equipment, help her with youth programming down at the rec center. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you for everything, John. So we'll move to board comments, and that would start with Pat. Oh, I always want to skip that. I don't know why. Okay, so yeah, we'll move to public comments. I apologize. Vicki Brown, if you'd like to come up and state your name and address. Thank you, Pat.
Hi, I'm Vicki Brown, 601 West Broad Street. First, I want to let y'all know that my comments are to be taken as constructive criticism and not as personal attacks, please. After hearing Junior Freeman speak at the board meetings, as well as Jimmy Williams' excellent and informative articles in the Tideland News, I have renewed concerns about the town's consideration of eminent domain in forcing the sale of property behind the Piggly Wiggly to build an emergency operations center. I understand that the state has given us $9 million earmarked for an EOC, but I have questions as to why we even need an EOC. Usually, EOCs are in county seats. Jacksonville and Beaufort, both county seats, have EOCs. Small towns such as ours generally don't have them. $9 million will not begin to cover the cost of land, plus a new building with generators and other equipment, either with seized land, land near the Rotary, or elsewhere. Why saddle us with a large unwanted expense, estimated to be $15 million to $23 million? Could even be more. The only reasonable and cost-effective option, and one that is being ignored in my opinion, is to use the state's money to refit and readapt the police and fire department where they stand, which is in the middle of town. As Jimmy Williams pointed out in his excellent articles in the Tideland, we have already spent $100,000 of the town's money to provide a secure place to shelter personnel outfitted with sleeping quarters and communications center with a generator backup, and it's all meeting Category 3 hurricane strength standards, paid for and signed at the Swansboro Methodist Church. The mayor's indicated that there are police cars ready to be sold at auctions to provide more space. Buildings can be rebuilt and refitted to house personnel and equipment for our police and fire departments. Why can't this meet our needs? I also must add that I certainly agree with Mr. Freeman in pointing out the legal implications of eminent domain. We open ourselves to lawsuits with compensation and punitive damages paid by us, the citizens. Eminent domain is personally distasteful to me. I think it's wrong to take a person's land away, and in addition to lawsuits, will result in public opposition when the plans of the commissioners are finally revealed to the public instead of being behind closed doors at executive sessions. The boards repeatedly stated their desire for commercial growth to the extent of obligating $250,000 and rezoning the land to have commercial and industrial development in town. Now you are considering eminent domain, taking away an attractive large piece of land in the middle of town that could fill this very purpose. We ask that you reconsider these inconsistent, short-sighted decisions made through closed sessions that have huge and unnecessary risk and long-term implications to the town and to us, the taxpayers. I don't think we need an EOC for a town of our size. We have already spent money at the Methodist Church to protect us during a hurricane and to protect our protectors, the fire and the police department, to cover what Swansboro needs. So why obligate us for more? Eminent domain should be a last resort, if at all. Just because it can be done doesn't mean it should be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we have Joyce Johnson. And if you state your name and address, please.
My name is Joyce Johnson. I live at 195 Peninsula Manor Road in Hubert.
If you could,
and
yeah.
I will
I know
fix it.
it's hard.
I'm a little taller than most people. So if you remember last meeting, I was here and my niece was here, and she wrote something, asked me to share it with you because she is back in Nag's Head. She is still very much so considering Swansboro for her home, and they are military. This would be her moving back home, which is what everybody wanted. Not just us, but like obviously you want professionals to come back and live here and help our community grow responsibly. So with that, I will read what she wrote. There has been a consistent negative attitude about Swansboro by its leadership and representatives representatives at recent city meetings as though Swansboro is a thing that must be changed into something of value instead of emphasizing the treasure it has always been. If Swansboro has become a pass-through city, it is a culmination of poor city planning and unrecognized treasures. To focus solely on our historical district as our only pride is faulty thinking. We have a state park with a unique ferry experience to a natural paradise. Yet city planning has failed the moment it allowed huge franchises to mark one of our greatest treasures. What should have been marked by green spaces and coastal-themed businesses is marked by businesses found anywhere. Drive that road, units, nothing to mark our treasure until the end. A road that could have been an attraction in itself and has become a diminutive version of what it should have been. In a world that is regularly celebrating healthy lifestyles, Swansboro's leadership has failed to see opportunities in sidewalks and bike lanes, and I do know you're working on that, to organize in destination of trails, parks, and small business centers. The city has indeed planned for and provided a thoughtful park with playground and recreational space and trails, but is that to be our only green space? Unrecognized goes both our places of natural beauty and the value of our local artisans to maintain what some refer to as Swansboro's charm. I would urge you that this is more than charm. It is being asked to be maintained. It is a firm identity that pulls a community together, a firm identity that allows a city to stand out and thus draws itself an even greater community. Throughout city planning, thoughtful city planning would be placing small green spaces with benches and shade to invite people to stay and shop a while at thoughtfully organized small business centers, a business center that is not only plans for, but includes plans for them to grow in an area that celebrates the individuals with the ambition and the courage to start their own business. Instead, we have small businesses and small business centers chopped into irregularly between large franchises that ultimately distract from these individuals we should be celebrating as Swansboro's treasures. It is argued that the city does not have the means to address traffic, that it lies in the hands of DOT trying to draw blame yet again away from poor city planning, placing large businesses near schools, chopping up small businesses between franchises along one road with no depth or plans to limit city turns, and thus points to a simply, yet again, to poor city planning. It is said there is no funding for several city projects, but again, the city wants to spend money to bring more businesses. You will argue that it brings homes and thus taxpayer revenue. We ask, do you not have a responsibility to your current citizens first? And if you bring in more citizens, you will have an equal responsibility to provide sufficient infrastructure to these new citizens, including reliable electricity, more first responders, more classrooms, more teachers, more playgrounds, etc. Problems yet to be addressed specifically in the areas you propose to allow building. Swansboro, it is time for you to pay your bills first. Do not build yourself into debt, and into debt your citizens and other well-being people struggle with. Drive your city with eyes wide open to damage that has been done, yet still for the potential that it could be, and plan. Show the citizens of Swansboro that you are not volunteering Swansboro's precious resources and space without having full consideration of the impact on all resources and infrastructure. Make a plan that celebrates all of Swansboro's treasures, from its natural wonders to its entrepreneurs. Change is not to be resisted. Swansboro will grow. How it grows is dependent on thoughtful planning with ears open to wisdom and a sincere eye on the treasure that Swansboro has always been and could be. Alumni of Swansboro High School and sincere believer in Swansboro's treasure, Renee Isley. I would like to add to that, that tonight,
Well, yeah, it's past time, actually, so if you could just sum it up real quickly.
I will. Tonight you talked about wetland runoff, where our shrimpers are fighting profusely in Raleigh to be able to keep their way of life. Part of what is endangering both the recreational and the commercial fishing in our community is overbuilding and wetland runoff. It is not just over trawling or overfishing by hook, line, and sinker. It is overbuilding.
Okay, ma'am,
Please be
thank you
cautious.
so much. Thank you for your comments. Okay, we have Terry Herbert, please, put your microphone and name and address, please.
Good evening, I'm Terry Herbert. I have the Swansgate issue to begin with, because on June the 14th, we had a lot of heavy rain, and I thought that the culvert had been repaired back in February. But as I drove by, there was water that had completely filled up the culvert and was encroaching on one of the yards there by that area. I didn't know who else to call, so I bothered Jeff Conaway, and I appreciate that. On another matter, 2 weeks ago, the board was all set to approve the rezoning for the Joed property. And I say that because at least 3 of the board members attend the planning board meeting, where it was approved 4-1. They seemed pleased with the outcome. Justification for the project was that the development would lead to $60,000 or $70,000 per year jobs for our college graduates. In the end, it appears that the businesses committed to the project were not as committed as we were led to believe. And I have to ask, did we do our due diligence? And finally, I'd also like to add our favorite topic, Flybridge. We are 2 weeks closer to it returning. I don't know when it will return, but Commissioner Eckendorf warned us it would. Just a reminder, our zoning has not changed, but the board membership has. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, too. All right, that's everybody that signed up, but I will ask if anybody would like to speak. Okay, Jamie? And 5 minutes, please, and name and address. Randy.
Jamie Patani, 2102 Holly Hill Court. The Swan Gate thing that they're talking about, and apparently there's a problem at Charleston. This rezoning, that's what this is all about. The due diligence, had somebody done anything, either him, you, the state, CAMA, I don't know who, had done anything, we wouldn't have a problem with people with wet yards and runoff. Was it overbuilt? I don't know. But this is what we're trying to eliminate with new houses, new buildings. Do it carefully. I'm not against growth, no matter what you think. I'm against uncontrolled growth. I don't want a $500,000 box tray sitting out there on Swansboro Loop Road. Those people paid $500,000 and up for those houses. We need to do better. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments.
There were 2 trucks, 3:30 the other day, 2 trucks. We're stopped at Realty Water World, whatever it is, and we are stopped. The light had been yellow, fully red, and 2 trucks flew past us as the car was coming out of First Citizens. That would have been at least the 3rd head-on wreck in the last 2 months. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Randy, did you name and address, please?
Randy Swanson, 208 West Corbett. Quick couple comments, actually, and Vicki Brown said a lot of facts, did a lot of research, but I think it's really incongruent with Friendly City by the Sea, with eminent domain. We don't need a Taj Mahal, and we don't need a building that can withstand Armageddon. It's too late at that point. And I don't really think it should be in a business domain on a highway where our business taxes would be better supported by having a business there as opposed to EOC. So frankly, that doesn't make sense to me. We've talked about lowering the tax rate to 3%, but yet we talk about putting parking meters and reducing or having more trouble with financing Swan Fest. Both of these things directly affect our citizens. Why would we reduce a tax rate, but then put parking meters and then not want to support what our citizens go to with Swansboro? It's incongruent with Friendly City by the Sea, or a township that I've moved into. Land Use Committee, I'd appreciate a little more respect other than disrespectful and condescending comments. Unless you were on that board, we, other people were asked to volunteer for that board and to make the best decisions, and we were led to make those decisions, which we made. And so if they need to be changed in the future, well, then you change them, because I didn't know a tire store or a coffee shop was going to come there. But I do appreciate a little bit of respect for the volunteers that are asked of the board on these committees. The last thing I have is a social district with Swan Fest. It would affect the bathrooms, I feel, if we had a social district, because it would require booze to be bought from an ABC licensed establishment, which is not allowed to overserve customers. Right? So that is a tag that protects people being drunk. There's been some concern voiced that we don't want to be a drunk fest or people walking around. That is ridiculous, that people would be more intoxicated because of a social district. In fact, it would be more controlled, because you would not be allowed to walk down the street with a red Solo cup that is not sealed, that was bought at an ABC licensed establishment. Furthermore, if they buy that liquor, they would be going into some place that had a bathroom. So maybe that even reflects on the visitor center. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your comments, too. Okay? Anyone else? Okay, so nobody else, so we'll move to board comments, and we'll start at the end with Pat, as we usually do.
Let me start with the citizens first instead of the staff. Thank you so much for coming out, and those of you that spoke, we do hear you. It's not that your voices don't go unnoticed. We do hear what you have to say. So thank you for coming out and speaking for what you believe in. Staff, thank you so much for what you do every single day, especially in this heat. You guys that are outside all the time, please make sure you're hydrated. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been gone for 3 weeks, and I'm sure you guys did a great thing. So thank you for what you do. For those of you out there that are comments about the flooding problem, Main Street Extension, Loop Road, trust me, I feel your frustration. I live one row of houses up from that exact spot. So I don't think it's coincidence that for all the years I've lived there, we never had a problem on that corner until they started breaking ground for that subdivision. So to me, I'm sorry, it's not a coincidence. There's a problem. I'm just waiting for it one day to get to my back deck because I'm only one row up. So I didn't give. It's had enough. I know one tank, you guys have done some ditch work, I think at the Gordon House, right? Yeah, because I know there was a big problem there with it. So it's frustrating. I get it. And we're just going to keep trying and get it corrected. I don't like, as much as the next person, of wetlands being compromised. I don't like the fact that, better watch what I say. That's all. I'm going to stop right there. So some of you want to talk about it with me offline. I'll gladly talk to you about it, but I'm just going to watch myself tonight. But thank you for coming. Like Pat said, it's frustrating to hear you guys frustrated, especially when there's things that we really can't do anything about, or we can't tell you about just yet. So thank you for coming.
Thanks, Bill. Just going to keep it short tonight. I got the letter last week from Ms. Malord, and it stated that the sentiment of the town is we're growing uncontrollably. Sentiment of some of you in here is we're growing uncontrollably. We're only playing by the rule book you gave us. The land use plan update of 2019. In that, if you all take some time to read it, there's some math in there that doesn't make sense to me in a way. Something about sea rise growing at 3 millimeters per year, and in the next 60 years, we're going to have 9 feet of water. That math doesn't work out for me. Okay, but that's in writing in the report. That's not my math. It's whoever did this report. That report was also basically input from only 90 citizens that actually live in Swansboro. When I asked for a map, ArcGIS, of who responded to this, where do they actually live, no record. The company that came and sat before us that was brought to us by the town planner permits said that a good survey would take 6 months to a year and would collect probably more than 25 to 30% response. This was done in 20 days and 90 people responded. That's just laying out the facts for you, okay? Once again, I'll say it again, I'll keep saying it. When I go and I ask questions about what does an EOC need to be, how does it need to be, and some of the words I've heard in here like Taj Mahal, takes me aback because there's the guy over there that responds to your needs. Black shirt, right over there. Good looking hairstyle, by the way. Okay? He's the guy I ask, what does the town need to respond to your needs? That's our first priority. And the chief sitting next to him, the police chief Dwayne. What does the town need to have? Currently, the facility we have, where it stands, is not storm rated for Cat 4 storm. There's no way to bring that up to characteristics of a Cat 4 storm. We're going to have to build a new one. Those are the facts. I'm not going to mix emotion or anything else like that in there. These are the facts that we are presented. Now, the property search took a while, I'll give you that, and we searched high and low for available property and who was willing to bring us a reasonable offer and had to live up to all the characteristics. And a lot of those things went through, and because of the general statute of North Carolina, when you discuss contracts and figures, it's closed session. When the board commissioners are ready to release that they've actually made a decision, that's the part we say, hey, we make a decision, we're going to come out. Right now, there's a lot of things up for debate that we have to get answers for. And in that, if too much information does get out about that, we're liable to the state statute. That means Raz, if I'm wrong, the state district attorney would have a problem with me releasing closed information, I guess. I could be prosecuted for that. So those are things that, believe it or not, act in your best interest as well as the town's. So I think I'm done addressing a lot of these things. But when I ask somebody what an EOC needs, I'm going to go ask the experts, and the experts are over there. Okay, guys? Thanks.
Yeah. All right, a lot of stuff being said here tonight. I got to say, I hear that a lot. We are all for controlled growth, controlled development. But we got to grow before we can manage it. We have to grow before we can control anything. A lot of the stuff I think may go by the wayside. We'll see. We'll have to live and learn on that. The EOC, it does need to be a Taj Mahal, but it does need to have something that a citizen can come to in the middle of a crisis and say, I need protection, I need help. How many people can we fit in the basement of the Methodist Church? I'm not sure. I've never really, I guess I have been in there cooking peanuts at the Methodist Church. So I'm not sure what it would take to satisfy the folks here, to say we need some place to protect our firefighters and our policemen and our citizens, our town personnel, the group we have sitting over here that do such a good job for us. That's all the Emergency Operations Center is going to do. It's going to duplicate the effort that we already have right? And make it possible for them to function until we can get our normal area open back up. And have have someplace safe for them to be. But that doesn't seem to be exactly what y'all want either. I want to thank the town staff tonight. I want to thank all the citizens coming to speak. Excuse me. And I'd like to talk to you afterwards, if I can. I am concerned about the easement we just approved. I'm worried that that construction company, that developer, is going to try to do something slippery, if you will, if that's a good word for it, something slippery, because they have in my neighborhood. So I would like to talk to you about that. Other than that, again, thanks for everybody for coming. Have a good night.
Hey, Tamara.
Just going to say thank you for everybody that took the time to speak and to tell us your concerns. You're absolutely always listening. There's all the time. So we appreciate the time you take. To the staff, thank you every day.
Okay, yep. So we're getting close to the end here, so I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. I don't really care if we agree on topics or not. I do, I wish we did, but as long as we're talking about them and trying to work out a solution to them. I don't expect us all to agree and have the same viewpoints. That's why we have open meetings and public meetings. So please continue to come out and get your friends to come out if you'd like. I'm just up here trying to do the best, as I'm sure any other commissioner or mayor in the past has done. Our current commission included, we may make decisions that doesn't please everybody, but that's what this is all about. Talk to us. Please come to me. I'll talk to you. I've talked to a number of people here one-on-one. I'd be more than happy to talk to more. And the same individuals. I wouldn't mind having recurring conversations. Getting to the Project Coffee issue that, they pulled their application. They weren't ready to move forward. That wasn't a town thing. That's a Jacksonville-Onslow economic development thing that was going to create better paying jobs for our citizens here in this area that might improve our standard of living somehow. But unfortunately, they pulled it out. There was a misquote. I don't know if anybody's aware of it, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway just to show you how things can play out, and that please, if you have questions, to reach out and ask us. So the county was going to put up $250,000. We were going to put up $250,000 for a total of $500,000, which would allow for more funding to come in from the state. A local news outlet, TV station, quoted in print and on air that the county was going to put up $250,000 and the town was going to put up $650,000. No, excuse me, $850,000. So that was a misquote. I just want everybody to be aware of that and see how things can get out of line and take their own, it takes its own life at that point, So please understand that we're here to try to do the job that y'all want us to do. Thank you again to our town staff, our chiefs, our manager, our legal team, our financial department, planning, everybody. They do a great job. Inspections, everybody does public works every single day. So thank you so much. With that being said, that's going to conclude our open meeting. And so I need if we are so inclined, is anybody inclined to enter into a closed session? I need a motion, if so, to enter a closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11 to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged, and to establish or to instruct the public body staff or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the price and other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, or lease.
So moved.
Okay, second? Okay, all in favor? All right, so that's unanimous. We'll go into closed session. I don't think there'll be anything to report. You're welcome to hang out all you want to, but I don't think there'll be really anything to report afterwards. There may possibly be, but you never know. Thank you so much for coming out. Okay, so everybody's back and we're out of closed session. So I'd like to report that we've come to a decision to proceed with the proposed offer to the Rotary property for $1 million for approximately 5 acres. And out of that, they would pay any of their buyout clause that they had agreed to if they sold the property within a certain amount of time. We also are not putting down any earnest money, and we would build a road just to the end of our property. So we will proceed with a motion to approve that.
I move that we proceed.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So it passes unanimously, so we'll proceed with that proposed acquisition of property for the Rotary property. All righty, any more discussion on anything?